2026 is here!
Oh, fuck yeah! This is the shit! Kill me now!
And what better way to start this year off than with a G3 video? Yeah, one of my favorite generations in all of MLB, and I thought, you know what would be a very fun idea for a video? To explore every G3 character that appeared in G4. And when I say every single character, I do mean every single one, from the main ones, the secondary ones, and even some that you didn't know came from G3. So let's start this year right by going back in time to a simpler time in the MLB community, and one that was pure gold. Let's begin with Twilight Twinkle. Now, Twilight Twinkle in G3 was a pony that only appeared as a toy, and unfortunately she didn't have a lot of merchandise or popularity. Hence why she wasn't shown in any G3 media, and technically she didn't even appear in G4.
I mean, so you're saying you're a liar?
I didn't, because despite her popularity not being that high on G3, surprisingly she instead inspired one of the most popular ponies in all of G4, Twilight Sparkle.
Wait a minute!
Now, yes, Lauren Faust originally was inspired by G1 Twilight to create Twilight Sparkle, both in her design, color scheme, and cutie mark, which would have looked something like this.
It's just like wrong.
But eventually Faust made another design of Twilight, one that basically was an amalgamation of G1 Twilight, Moon Dancer, and of course Twilight Twinkle. Hence why, despite Twilight Twinkle not being in G4 directly, she still qualifies to be in this video, because without her we wouldn't have Twilight as we know her today. Next is Applejack. You know, the confident, hardworking, and honest pony that we all loved in G4. I wonder how she looked in G... Oh my god! So yeah, this is G3 Applejack, and it's no surprise that this design is infamous among fans for being, well, incredibly ugly. This, and with a non-existent presence in the show, books, comics, and everything else, made G3 Applejack completely irrelevant. And while a lot of people don't like this version of her, that's not me. I always loved this design for Applejack, and sure, it might be nostalgia talking, but I don't know what it is about this design. This design invokes such a warm and cozy feel, from the reddish coat, which reminds me of autumn, to the bright green and yellow accents in the mane, which always reminded me of lemonade or freshly cut grass. All of this makes this design one of the prettiest ones in the entirety of G3, at least in my opinion. Now, is it better than the G4 Applejack? No, not even close, but let's be honest, this design now is iconic, that if Hasbro tried to change it, it would be heresy. But even then, there's fans who have made this once hated design actually work and made it actually better than the G4 Applejack. G3 and G4 Pinkie Pie.
They're the same thing, but...
Design-wise, G3 Pinkie Pie is more down to earth. She likes to have fun with her friends, willingly. She is silly, but never to the extreme.
I was trying to be Santa. Why? What's wrong with the real Santa? Broken? You broke Santa?
And she's actually nice and funny, and not whatever this is supposed to be. But it really depends on what you prefer, the friendly, down-to-earth Pinkie Pie, or the wacky, sometimes annoying and toxic Pinkie Pie. Or Pony Life Pinkie Pie. Which basically mixes G3 and G4 Pinkie Pie's personality into one, and you know what? It surprisingly works. Rainbow Dash. Okay, this one is bizarre. Because when talking about G3 Rainbow, it's like talking about a completely different characters than the one we saw in G4, and not in a good way. Because G3 Rainbow is basically what Rarity was in the beginning of G4.
What's happened? Are you alright? I've lost my diamond and crusted purple ribbon!
I wanna die!
You didn't expect me to lay on the grass, did you?
She was posh, she had a fancy voice, she liked her hair, sometimes a little too much. And the darling phrase, oh god!
Darlings, 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 darling, 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 darlings, 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 darling.
Okay, we get it. And despite being kinda the leader of Ponyville, not the mayor, just a leader figure, and also being the one responsible of creating rainbows for the Earth Ponies in G3, she is surprisingly boring and shallow as a character. At least compared to other characters in G3. And I'm not saying that a fancy girly rainbow can't work, because fans already made it work. It's just I don't think this version of Rainbow should or could come back, and maybe that's for the better. Fluttershy. Okay, this one is also very weird, but not as bad as with Rainbow. Let me ask you something. When you think of Fluttershy, I think we all know what comes to mind. Yep, exactly. We don't think this! G3 Fluttershy is a completely different character from the one in G4, beginning with her design, with her being an Earth Pony instead of a Pegasus, and having a pretty okay color scheme. But the thing that I found the most strange about her is her personality. While in G4 she was a caring and nice pony, Fluttershy in G3 is the complete opposite of that. She still is nice, but also is more social and extroverted, and from how she's described in her toy, makes her sound less like FIM Fluttershy and more like Pony Life Fluttershy.
Ah, yes! Nothing like the smooth process of opening a box for the first time.
You doing all right there, Fluttershy?
Oh, fine! Just fine!
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Okay, Season 2, Pony Life Fluttershy. And honestly, I don't know how to feel about that. Rarity. Okay, this one is pretty fun. Rarity in G3 was basically a irresponsible princess that preferred to have fun instead of doing her responsibilities. She loves to have fun, but ends up in trouble, even if she didn't mean to cause it in the first place, and often regrets her mistakes. Or makes excuses for what happened. But eventually she does learn how to be a better princess and ruler, which honestly sounds eerily similar to how Sip was in G5. And this is who Rarity was in G3, and while being very different from her G4 counterpart, both in design and personality, I really like this version of her, although I get why some people might not like her now. Scootaloo and Sweetie, they exist, and that's really it. I'm sorry, but that's the best way that I could describe them. Scootaloo was nice, although sometimes she could be a little bit of an anarchist because she lies multiple times to the mayor of Ponyville. Oh, and she still has her scooter, and that's it. And Sweetie was very weird because she knows how to bake. Sweetie knows how to bake a cake that wasn't burned.
Oh my god!
Best Sweetie ever. But honestly, G4 did it better, just because of their developments, but not bad G3, not bad. Spike. Okay, that's not his name. His name is Ken Broth Gilspotton Hitspike, or Spike. What makes G3 Spike so interesting is, again, the fact that he doesn't really resemble his G4 counterpart, but that's for the better. This 1,000-year-old Chad is a royal advisor slash butler for the Princess of Unicornia, as well as being very well spoken.
Ah, princess, princess, princess. My dear sweet Princess Wysteria, princesses do not plan promenades, they ride in them.
And having a pretty messed up sense of humor.
I am still quite young, merely 1,000 or two. Now, if I was 1,000,000, I would...
And he's not scary at all.
Ah!
What I feel that makes this Spike so fun, and in a lot of ways better than the G4 one, is how entertaining he is to watch, something that the G4 Spike can be hit or miss. But again, if we're talking about the development, design, and lore, yeah, G4 Spike is better. But if you're talking about just fun, well, G3 Spike is better. Starswell. Okay, this one is pretty interesting. Starswell in the G3 lore was the Night Keeper and the one responsible that everyone is having nice dreams. And maybe the one responsible for creating witching stars and granting wishes, or at least in the books and comics she is? And if all of this sounds familiar, well, G3 Star Soul is basically what Luna would later be in G4, for the most part. But I think you all remember the name Star Soul because of Star Soul the Bearded, but believe it or not, that's not the original version of G4 Star Soul, but rather it was this one. Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that Star Soul originally began as a brushable and one that had a very unique color scheme, compared to how they would look later in the show. Although this isn't surprising because Star Soul has been in every generation since G1, except for G5. But we don't talk about G5. Cherry Blossom and Cheerilee. Cherry Blossom was the original name of what later would be Cheerilee, and she mainly appeared in the G3 comics and annuals, and between the two they don't have a lot of differences. And the only ones are that later Cheerilee would be a unicorn and that her cutie mark was drastically simplified. So you might be wondering, why am I including both of them? Well, because both appear in G4 as different characters.
Okay, now you have my attention.
Cheerilee in G4 mostly stayed the same, even to her job, although in this regard she was majorly downgraded, because she went from teaching the Princess of Unicornia to teaching just normal kids. Oh, and also being leveling poison. Thanks, Apple Bloom! And Cherry Blossom appeared in issue 29, where we discovered that she is the twin sister of Cheerilee and that she is a wrestler. Something that they didn't have to do, but for what originally was an old design, for them to actually expand upon it, it's pretty awesome. As well as with Cheerilee, and I'm happy that even to this day she's remembered by fans old and new. Oh, and as for which generation was better, both. Sun Shimmer. Okay, this one needs a little bit of a story. So does anyone remember male ponies?
No.
Male ponies were basically exclusive ponies that you could only get, well, in the mail. And one of these ponies was Sun Shimmer. She was part of the Jewel Pony series and had a beautiful yellow coat with a pinkish reddish mane. And if she looks familiar, well, it's because Sun Shimmer was the original Sunset Shimmer, with both being identical, with the only changes being their names, that Sunset has a more orange coat instead of yellow, and adding some new accents in the mane. And it's crazy to believe that this exclusive pony would later become a beloved character, and one that fans don't remember coming from G3, Starsong. Starsong was a Pegasus that was part of the Core 7 and the only Pegasus of the group, and she's described as a talented singer and dancer, although she could be a little bit shy. Well, that's ironic. But despite that, she loves being in the spotlight, which, now that I think about it, sounds very similar to how Rara's personality was in this show. But surprisingly, she actually made an appearance in G4. Whoa, calm down, because her appearance was basically just a cameo in issue 40.
No!
And some toys that we don't talk about. That, and also the fact that she was a unicorn, which honestly is kinda weird. But hey, maybe Starsong fits better to a unicorn than a Pegasus. Minty. To talk about Minty is basically to say the same thing that a lot of fans say about her now, that she's perfect, the best character to come out of G3, and a character that needs more love. Yeah, no.
What the actual fuck did you just say to me right now?
Sure, I'm glad that Minty has become a beloved character among fans, but to say that she's the best G3 character is to say that Coco Pomel is the best G4 character. It's just not true. And ironically, Minty in G3 was a mixed bag, because sometimes she could be very funny and relatable, and other times you were facepalming at the way that she acted or the situation she put herself in.
That was close.
A few moments later.
Now it's perfect. Well, Well, maybe not so perfect. In fact, it's not perfect at all. I think maybe just one more little tap, and it'll be... Uh-oh! Uh-oh! Oh no!
You're a fucking idiot.
And a lot of people like this Minty, but ironically, the one Minty that no one talks about is the one in G4.
What do you mean, Sugarflake? Minty G4 was a plain cameo in a short, or a toy. So what's so interesting about her?
Well, yeah, but did you know that Minty actually got a moment to shine in the MOP books? Where she was a jolly sweet-toothed girl that lost pies and had the Sweet Apple Acres pie-eating record. Oh, and also that originally fans thought that this character was Minty, leading people to believe that she was a psychopath. Oh yeah, also she was part of the Trail Trotters in Pony Life, so that's cool. And as a whole, I think this Minty is a little bit more interesting than other versions of her. Well, this one and the G5 one, Candy Cane. Let me ask you something, do you remember holiday ponies?
Nope.
Okay, well, back then they used to be exclusive ponies that represented holidays or months. And these weren't only recolors or just random toys, they actually were characters that had their own personality, quirks, and lore. And one of my favorites was Candy Cane, and just like her name implies, she was a candy cane inspired pony. And surprisingly, she made an appearance in G4 in the 2019 holiday comic, where her name got changed to Chiffon Ruffles, and aside of her design being updated, she also got a little bit of a backstory, as she's an important dress designer in Canterlot. And what else can I say about her? She just looks so awesome. Tula and Coconut Cream. These two were basically opposites. Tula originally being just a toy, to then being redesigned in 2008 and becoming part of the Core 7, with a design that looked very similar to G3 Rarity, and a lot of fans actually thought that this was supposed to be Rarity. And Coconut Cream being a character that initially had a lot of appearances in the beginning of G3, to then being relegated to a toy. So what did G4 do? Well, take this, throw it out the window and cook! Because these two are completely different characters in G4. For one, they are friends, which is hilarious to think about now because in G3 these two never interacted with each other, or acted like this. Which, you know what? I don't mind. And that they are fillies, and that Coconut Cream Mini Pony Collector's card got retconned to fit in the show, a change that, again, I don't mind. And the biggest change of them all is that they became popular. If you told me when I was a kid that these two in the future would have fan arts, fanfics, ships, fan redesigns, appearing in fan animations, and even one of them being an LGBTQ icon, I would have called you crazy. But they are, and Tula specifically still being a very popular character among fans, and Coconut Cream, not that much. And to think that all of this began because fans were asking Jim Miller, Ishii Rattle, and Tim Stubby, hey, where's Tula and Star Song? And the craziest thing is that it actually worked. Sky Wishes. Sky Wishes was an earth pony that got introduced in Dancing in the Clouds. And, just like her name implies, she was the one responsible for granting wishes in G3 for the Earth Ponies. In the weirdest ways, because she granted wishes thanks to kites and wish catchers. So with such a cool concept, you might think that she would have a cool appearance in G4. Ha, no. Don't get me wrong, this toy is not bad, far from it. It's pretty faithful to her design, and her cutie mark is an improvement for sure. It's just sad that a major character that was an important part in the story of G3, one that reunited Pegasi and Earth Ponies, had an incredibly funny quirk.
Wow, wait till I tell Twinkle Twirl. We've heard about you and how magical you are. We thought it wasn't. Oh, you know what I mean.
And that had one of the most popular ships, yeah, you heard that right, out of G3, ended up just as a toy. But hopefully one day we could get the Sky Wishes that we all deserved. Or not, because at this point I don't know what Hasbro's doing anymore. You like losing money, boy!
Oh, fuck. I can't believe you've done this.
Wysteria. Wysteria in G3 was an earth pony that loved flowers, bees, and had some appearances in G3. Oh, and also she became the princess of fucking Ponyville because she touched a 1,000-year-old flower. Wysteria was a simple but very lovable character, and one that G3 fans were excited to see at some point in G4, and we did, but maybe not in the way that we all wanted. And again, don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic and very faithful toy, keeping her design exactly the same as in G3, and even making her sparkly.
Nice.
It's just that it could have been cool to see her in a more notable role, maybe even as a part of the trio of flower ponies in Ponyville. Mayor, Flitter, Flutter. Okay, so this one is another technicality, because Mayor Flitter Flutter didn't appear directly in G4, but rather inspired another character, Mayor Mare. And this was something that was confirmed by a character designer in the show, and yep, they look identical. If we're talking about young Mayor Mare, and as a whole, it's kinda surprising that a nothing character actually became more than just a mayor. Sunny Days and Peachy Pie. Sunny Days basically being a surf bro pony with her loving surf, ski, playball, and lemonade, and Peachy Pie being a lovable pony that loves giving her friends hugs. The reason why I decided to talk about these two at the same time is because they appeared together in the show, in one of the most conflicting ways possible, because they looked like this. And on their own, they're not bad designs. On the contrary, they're cool, adorable, and perfect. It's just the fact that they're supposed to be Peachy Pie and Sunny Days. I don't mind Peachy Pie, I actually prefer this design. My problem is with Sunny Days, because with such a cool concept as a surfer sportsy pony that loves lemonade, to not include any inspiration of her design is kinda disappointing. But at least they're better than their toys, because those were...
Know your fucking place, trash!
Waterfire. I hate Waterfire. Okay, maybe hate is a very strong word, but I've never been that big of a fan of Waterfire, mainly because of her name. Because the name Waterfire really never made sense to me, that and her design being really ugly. But in G4, yeah, this didn't change, as she's basically the same pony with just a Twilight Sparkle mold. But I can't deny that, again, fans made Waterfire into a cool character in fanarts, but as of right now, I don't like her. Foria. This one's another one that I don't like. Now, not as bad as with Waterfire, but when you see how Foria looked in G3, I think that you can understand where I'm coming from. The G3 version had a very cohesive color scheme, while the G4 one had a very random color scheme with a pastel purple coat and a green mane, which made her mini pony look incredibly ugly, which later was somewhat fixed by the Game Love game by making her colors darker. And honestly, this looks way more appealing than her original version. Moondancer. I think we all remember how Moondancer looked in G4. This design has become as iconic as the main 6 ones. So it might be surprising to learn that Moondancer not only appeared in G3, but also looked like this. Moondancer in G3 had a blue, almost silver coat with a blonde mane, and you know what? It's a design that I actually quite like. It's simple, effective, and one that has a lot of potential for fans to expand on. And sure, it might not be as iconic as the G4 one, but honestly, this one is so appealing that I can't hate it. Valentine. Valentine was a very unique pony in concept, as she was a Valentine-inspired pony, and something that sounds so interesting, and a design which then, and even nowadays, fans have expanded upon in fanarts. But believe it or not, Valentine actually appeared in G4 as a crystal pony, and she looks pretty awesome. The design tries less to replicate her G3 design and instead tries to expand upon it, like the fact that she was a crystal pony, making a reference to her original toy line. And as a whole, it's a pretty simple but nice design, and one that fans adored. Bumblesweet. Bumblesweet is a pony that is very simple. She's an orange pony that we all loved because of her toy, and this was also the case with G4, not only because of her toy, which stayed faithful to her G3 design, but also because she was actually included and expanded upon in the MLP comics, so a solid 10 out of 10. Blossomforth. As a character, G3 Blossomforth is really underwhelming. Design-wise, she looks fine enough, but this is where G4 did it better, which honestly sounds kinda crazy to say because all that they did was to add a little bit of green, but hey, it works. Royal Ribbon. Royal Ribbon was the name of a pony that first appeared as a fashion pony, but this isn't exactly true because she appeared in the episode A Canterlot Wedding in the Invasion of the Changelings, and looked pretty nice, at least compared to how her design was in later seasons. But something that you might not know is that Royal Ribbon actually appeared in G3 as a toy, and she looked pretty much the same as how she was in G4. And you know what? That's not entirely bad. Starbeam Twinkle. Starbeam Twinkle was the name of a pony that first appeared in the set Canterlot Celebration at Canterlot Castle, and looked average. And in G3 she looked completely different and, in a lot of ways, looking like Trixie, something that even fans have pointed out in the past. But you know what? It's a design that I actually prefer compared to her G4 counterpart, and one that fans have expanded upon on fanarts. Golden Delicious. So you might be wondering who is Golden Delicious, and well, in G3 she was a pony that only appeared in the toys, and she had a very simple but effective color scheme, and this is how she looked in G4. Where do I begin with this design? What I mean by that is that most G3 designs that have been translated to G4 have either improved these designs or left it as it was, with some minor changes. But in the case of Golden Delicious, they just changed her coat from white to mint, which doesn't look bad on her collector's card but looks awful in her actual toy. But believe it or not, she actually appeared in the show. Now, if you're thinking of Goldie Delicious, well, you'd be wrong. And despite having a very similar sounding name, they're completely different characters, and Golden Delicious in G4 actually is a generic stallion from the Apple family, and I might know how this design was created.
Level no jutsu! I've never seen this before. Ah!
Yep, that's right. This bright and colorful design got absolutely destroyed for this generic design, and I don't like it. Comet Tail. The best way to describe Comet Tail in G3 was that she was a very awesome looking toy, and one that if it was updated for G4 it would look amazing. Yeah, this is Comet Tail in G4.
What? No, dude!
Okay, you know what? This is not a bad design, but compared to the absolute eye candy that was Comet Tail in G3, yeah, this design sucks. But it really depends on what you prefer. Sapphire Shores. Yeah, you heard that right. Sapphire Shores originally was from G3. Now, Sapphire Shores in G3 was simply a toy. She was part of the Jewel Pony line and had a very simple design, and one that was my favorite when I was a kid. Which, when it got translated to G4, they improved on everything and in a lot of ways made it iconic. With her original design being completely overhauled and giving her a nice yellow coat, a bright blue mane and tail, and a stylish new outfit. And the only thing that almost stayed the same was her cutie mark. And outside of her design, I love that they actually developed her in more ways than fans think. And believe me, a bit on her is long overdue, but for now the only thing that I will say is
a full highest rating that I can issue, 10 out of 10, and it easily earns the badass seal of approval.
Periwinkle. Wait, Periwinkle appeared in G4? Yep. It might come as a surprise that Periwinkle appeared in G4, because in G3 Periwinkle was a super pretty white and bright blue pony, and one that fans adored. And in G4 Periwinkle actually appeared in the show, for about 3 scenes, in the episode Games Ponies Play. And they look actually awesome. But even then, I think it would have been cool to see them more in the background. But hey, he looks cool. Ribbon Wishes.
They're the same picture.
Meadowbrook. If that name sounds familiar, it's because Meadowbrook in G3 was the original version of what later would be known as Mage Meadowbrook. In G3 she was a toy and had a very okay design, but when it came to G4 they took a different approach, and originally her design was meant to be Fluttershy's, but later got changed. which explains why they have the same eye shape. And Meadowbrook's design later would get revamped again, as with her name, again. Which in the script of the episode she was called Jasmine Flower, but later got changed. Again. And in the words of M.L. Larson, I chose that name because I thought that it sounded a little bit more Eastern than Meadowbrook, but later got changed by Hasbro for legal reasons. And with this, finally giving us the coolest and only version of Meadowbrook in an MLP show. Candy Apples. The best way to describe Candy Apples in G3 was that she was a very pretty toy. She really was just a candy apple themed pony, so you might be wondering how did she look in G4, and well...
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Junebug. Junebug in G3 looked like this, and I don't like it. But this is the result of how she looked in G4 with a more appealing light lime coat and orange mane with some lighter orange accents. And it also helps how she was portrayed in the fandom, although something that I do need to say is that this design for Junebug reminisces more of the mini pony, which means that her mini pony is not as inaccurate as people think. And finally, Fizzy Pop, and in G3 she looked pretty cool. She had a purple coat and bright pink mane, and when she was translated to G4, this didn't change, beginning as a mini pony and then becoming... Tempest Shadow? Wait, what? So you're telling me that this sweet innocent pony became this absolute badass, with one of the most realistic and tragic stories in the franchise, a pony that defeated the Princess of Equestria, and one that performed the biggest heist in Equestrian history, and went toe-to-toe with an interdimensional goddess and the Knights of Harmony? This pony? Wow, I didn't see that coming. And there you have it. Every G3 character that appeared in G4, and wow, I honestly didn't expect this video to be 30 something minutes long. Wow. But hey, hopefully all my G3 fans love this video.
I gotta pump those numbers up, those are rookie numbers in this racket.
But hey, even if you didn't know anything about G3, well, now you do. So, what's your thoughts on these ponies? Do you think that they could or should come back to MLP? Leave it down in the comments. And remember to like the video and consider subscribing for more MLP videos like this one. And hey, why not join the Discord server? And remember to take care guys, and I'll see you in the next video.